Today on Deflationary Tech.
Hello, it's Deflationary Tech. I'm a 15-year vet. 9 years ago, I got into crypto, mostly Bitcoin. On Friday, we heard that, inflation skyrocketed at 8.6. Regular guy like me, what should we do? So I went through YouTube just like everybody else, and I've packaged it in a way that we can kind of figure out what's the next move.
Do want to get to the
Some
big story
reports on the
of this
Fed.
late day, and that is the Wall Street Journal scoop. About an hour ago, that the Fed is considering a 75 basis point rate hike this week. Let's bring in the reporter who broke that story. Nick Timmeros of the Wall Street Journal is with me now. Thank you so much, very much for being with me. This was, in fact, a market-moving story. Tell me more.
Well, thanks for having me, Scott. It looked a week ago like the debate at this meeting was going to be about, whether Chair Powell would signal 50 basis points for September versus 25. Obviously, the inflation data on Friday, the University of Michigan expectations report, the New York Fed had an inflation expectations report this morning. Those were negative. Those were not what the Fed wanted to see. And so now you do have a debate this week about whether it's going to be 50 or 75 basis points. And we just reported that, 75 basis points looks like a more likely and more live option than it did just a couple of days ago because of that inflation data.
Key things I heard about there was that the Federal Reserve is going to be checking, having two meetings, one on the 14th and one on the 15th. Let's check out the meeting calendars. So, all right, you guys can see that, right? Calendar. So, meeting calendar, statement, and minutes. So the FOMC holds 8 regularly scheduled meetings during the year and other meetings as needed. So right here, we're looking at the meetings from January. It also says the dates right over here, January 25th and 26th. And let's go to the one with right here. So we got one in June of 14th and 15th and one in July. So my thoughts is markets are going to continue going down. It looks like the Federal Reserve is picking recession over protecting us from interest rates. So it's either cause recession or tame inflation. And he's, he looks like he's in the middle of a rock and a hard place. He's going to have to force recession. So for the people that are into Bitcoin like me, let's see what Pump has to say about this.
Inflation read blowing up the notion that inflation has peaked. The question now is, when will it? And as long as it remains hot, where can you find opportunities? With us now is Pomp Investments founder Anthony Pompliano, better known to many of you as Pomp. Welcome to our new program. It's good to see you on this venue.
The Pomp.
Good to see you, Scott. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Your tweets today caught my attention first and foremost, and obviously I want to discuss crypto and Bitcoin with you during this interview, but let's start with these tweets you had. Undisciplined monetary and fiscal policy doesn't work was one of them. You can't print trillions of dollars and manipulate markets without consequences. Were you surprised by the CPI print as much as others?
Listen, Scott, if you go back to January 1st, 2020, and you look at asset prices since then, Bitcoin is up 400% since that point. The S&P is up about 22%, NASDAQ's up 36%, gold's up about 10%. The dollar has basically fallen off a cliff. Median home prices are up 30%. And I think what we're watching is that undisciplined monetary and fiscal policy turned the stock market and other asset into a casino. It's created incredible short-term thinking among investors. But over the long run, there is one thing that continues to act exactly as it's designed, which is Bitcoin. And the people who have continued to dollar cost average into that asset, 65.5% of all Bitcoin hasn't moved in a year, regardless of the volatility. And it continues to serve as the one thing that no one can manipulate and no one can change, that programmatic monetary policy. And in light of the undisciplined monetary and fiscal policy, it tends to be the sanity in an insane world.
So there's a lot in there of what obviously you just said, and you've maintained for a long time, certainly as long as I can remember, that Bitcoin is an inflation hedge. You tweeted, I'm looking at one from August of 2021, where you cite the return over the last 12 months of gold versus Bitcoin, and you say, quote, Bitcoin is the true inflation hedge. If that is the case, why has Bitcoin been cut in half, and why doesn't it go up if the inflation read was so hot?
Yeah, I think there's two things that are important to understand. First, assets that are inflation hedges, they move before the inflation comes. So if you remember in 2020, Paul Tudor Jones, Stanley Druckenmiller, many other sophisticated investors came out and said, listen, I think inflation is coming and I am going to move my assets now in anticipation. And that's where you saw Bitcoin go from about $10,000 all the way up to $64,000 in March of 2021. We started to get the over 5% inflation prints in June, July of the summer of 2021. And so inflation hedge assets move before. Now, that's why if you go back from before the pandemic to today, Bitcoin being up 400%. I always say to people, if you could go back and rewind time with the benefit of hindsight, you wouldn't buy stocks, you wouldn't buy bonds, you wouldn't buy real estate. You would have bought Bitcoin. It has been the best performer and it has served as that inflation hedge. Now, the second thing to understand also is that right now we're in this slow bleed of some sort of liquidity crisis. If you go back to 2008, 2009, there was a liquidity crisis over the summer of 2008. And gold went down 30%. The government stepped in with tons of stimulus, and gold over the next 2 years rallied and hit an all-time high. My thesis in 2020 was exactly that. On March 12th, I wrote and I said, we're in a liquidity crisis, and the government's going to have to step in. When they step in, people will run towards these safe haven assets that have sound money principles. Bitcoin is digital sound money. And so right now in 2022, what we're watching is that Bitcoin is going down and correlations are going towards one across all assets. So Bitcoin's going down, but so are stocks, bonds, real estate, etc. And the Fed's in control and they're crashing asset prices. But what ends up occurring is that once we get out of these higher correlation periods, Bitcoin will continue to outperform over a long period of time. And the reason is you have a finite asset that simply has a programmatic monetary policy. Humans are horrible at predicting the future. And so if you go and you look at the macroeconomic issues that we face, right now, wealth inequality has never been worse in America. And the reason is because 45% of Americans have no investable assets. They are getting punished by this high inflation. Food prices.
So the Fed is risking a recession to fight inflation. Inflation could be bad. You already feel it in the gas pump. I mean, I'm a regular guy. I mean, one of my family members came to see me the other day, and for my especially for my he went to the gas station with his tank. It was devastating, half full, really. And he
Pretty
said
devastating.
cost my mom like $67, and she had to sell. Pretty pricey for any type of vehicle. And if you ever felt so that before, people are feeling it selling a house, they're feeling it also in a grocery store. Meats basically are more expensive because you couldn't pay for it anymore, or any of your family members. It feels like I've been here. You have to before out of 2008 when the housing crash happened into a smaller apartment and stuff like that. So I was already overseas, but I got that call from my mom. Hey, what's going on? We lost the house. I was like, oh shoot, you lost the house. Hey, what could I do? Can't do anything. That messes with you a little bit. And then I'm trying to figure out how to improve my finance so it never happens to us again. I'm watching TV. I'm listening to Alex Jones. Remember Alex Jones, the person that got kicked out of YouTube? And then he had an interview with Max Kaiser. And Max Kaiser brought up Bitcoin. And I was like, what? What's Bitcoin? He's like, Bitcoin's the future. So I do my little research. I'm like, a digital currency to somebody in a different country that has a wallet, but you could send it to them for less than $1. Yeah, let's check that out. See what's going on. All right. So Bitcoin. Oh, that's Bitcoin right there. Car market. So BTC is at 22K. Oof, hit 21. Whew. Craziness. There's a lot of fear, man. There is a lot of fear. There is a lot of fear. We'll go to the top 100. We'll scroll down there. Cardano 45, 22%. Oof. 7-day 27% down. Ethereum's getting hit over the head. It's probably because people are waiting for that the update. BNB down 24%. It's a little bit further down than regular. This was probably because of the SEC, I would say probing BNB. So Cardano down 45. XRP, it's a little bit stronger. It was down 21%. Solana taking a big hit. I don't know, man. I'm kind of gonna get big into Solana. I just want to figure out where's a good purchase spot for Solana. Dogecoin. Whew, I know a whole bunch of people who purchase Doge. Buy Doge. I haven't seen it at 5 cents in a long time. Polkadot 6. It's really, to me, it's not. Ooh, Chronos. That's low, man. All right. Oh, Decentraland. That's not too bad. I'm like, it's not too bad, but it's really low, right? It's not like 6 months ago, huh? Shoot, we were flying high. To me, crypto moves in cycles. So the next cycle will be in 2024. That's basically Bitcoin's happening. I feel if you are holding, continue investing. I'm not saying right now. I'm saying if you're going to hold, the best thing to do is the dollar cost average. And if you have losses, you got a dollar cost average to get those losses down. So let's say you bought Bitcoin at 50,000 or something like that. Something crazy like that. You bought Bitcoin at 50,000 and now it's at 20,000. I would dollar cost average down if you're holding. So when it starts to rise up, you get the benefits of that. But this is not financial advice, though. It's just my thoughts and entertainment. Yeah, let's see if I got anything else, because I'm pretty struggle streaming right now. Time passes by pretty quick around here. Never say never. Wall Street contemplates shock.